Hello, my name is Doug Sanders, professional golfer, and I'm trying to reach Randy Weekly. If I have the right number, please have him to call. Doug Sanders. Thank you very much. Bye.
Morning dew on the rolling green, clubs in the bag, I've got a dream. From one small town to the next tee box, a life on the road, chasing drives and shots. Fairways and highways, chasing the sun, swinging that club till the day's work is done.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and I am super excited about today's Golfers Golf and Travel Show because we are going to call this our travel show. Yeah, strange how we do that. And our golf show is going to be coming up later this week with Art Strickland. But today, of course, just to cover it a little bit, the Ryder Cup team was announced by Keegan down at the home of the PGA down in Texas. And we've got 6 great participants. And if you go to our Golfers Golf and Travel Facebook page, I put up the names and the pictures and a little bit of the story there. So a lot of the things that we have going now with Robert Mills, who I'll introduce here in a minute, are now featured in our Golfers Golf and Travel Facebook page. You can find us on YouTube, and you can find us on liveecostyle.com on our media page there, where these features are shown, and then they feed up to our Roku channels. But if you go to Live Eco Style on YouTube, or if you go to Live Eco Style on Facebook, or Golfers Golf and Travel, which is after 14 years of development, we're finally seeing the world. So Robert Mills is just getting back from seeing the world. Robert Mills is out in California, and I'm old Uncle Randy. I've been the head of this goofy little operation for about 15 years. Someday I'll get it right, but Robert Mills always has it right. He is getting back from an exciting trip, coming back into his home in California. He is a world traveler, world-class guy. And he's going to tell us a little bit at the end of the show about his one of his mountain climbs coming up. I don't know if we call it a mountain, Robert. Do we call it a mountain where you're going to go in a couple days, or is that just a minor hill in your expedition?
It's a mountain.
That's a mountain. Okay.
Quite steep on both sides of it. It's Warren Peak up in Northeast California in the Warner Wilderness. So I'm heading out tomorrow morning for about 4 or 5 days with a partner.
Well, we're going to catch up on that. When do you get back from that trip?
Back from that trip Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. So later next week, hopefully, we'll hear about that. Of course, Robert Mills is world-class traveler, as I said. Also had been an attorney, now retired consumer advocate, basically, is the way I say it. A lot of class action suits that kept other people aligned and doing things right. And he does a lot of work out in San Francisco with guided tours, historical tours. Not hysterical. I think historical will be better. But I'm sure he has a lot of fun. But he just is getting back from what we call it, the Island of Madeira. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Island of Madeira. Randy, I have a fascinating travel pod for you today and for your listeners. And it's about this exotic Portuguese island of Madeira. It's way out in the Atlantic Ocean, about 600 miles southwest of Portugal. And even if your listeners are not looking for a vacation right now, you may want to listen to this pod because it'll give you some ideas about something to put on your bucket list, something you may want to do someday. But if you are in the market for a vacation destination, boy, do I have the destination for you today, okay? How does a magical, gorgeous, subtropical island that's inexpensive, easy to get to, extremely safe sound? And it's a place that's friendly and welcoming to Americans, and not every place is now. And everybody speaks English. Well, that would be the Portuguese island of Madeira, the Hawaii of Europe. And it's all those things. And I think you definitely may want to consider adding this to your vacation options for next time. Let's talk about safety first. Sadly, there's not that many places in the world today that are truly safe for foreign travelers, okay? But the Portuguese island of Madeira is one of the safest places on earth Um, I asked the guy, one of the guys, I said, "What's the crime rate here? What's the murder rate?" He says, "Murder? We don't have any murders here." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "We haven't had a murder in Madeira for years. Island 260,000 people, no murders." I said, "Well, you got crime then, right?" He says, "No, we don't have any crime." I said, "What do you mean? You got a prison here, right?" "Yeah, we have a prison. It's empty, and it's been empty for years."
Wow.
How is that possible? So I ask a lot of people, and I checked around, and here's basically the answer they give me. And I think it's true. I checked it out. Is that first of all, there's no poverty on Madeira. The island's booming. Everybody has all kinds of opportunities. No idle or unemployed Madeirans. And there's no racial or ethnic tensions. And the reason is the entire population is mono-ethnic. It's 100% Portuguese. Okay. And it's extremely tight-knit society. They all know each other because they lived together on this island for 6 centuries.
Wow.
Reputation's a big deal. And it's also extremely family oriented, as all Portuguese society is. Very, very family oriented society. And all that, as you know, mitigates against crime. And as one guy put it to me with some humor, he says, a young man here that's tempted to commit crime. He says, they're not afraid of the police. They're not afraid of the judges. But boy, oh boy, are they terrified of what their mothers were going to do to them if they misbehave. And I heard that story, and apparently it's a very matriarchal society that way. So where is this place? This gorgeous safe island is way out in the eastern Atlantic Ocean, 604 miles from the Lisbon airport in Portugal and 540 miles from Casablanca in Morocco, okay, in northern Africa. And as you know, and this is new, there is now quite a number of nonstop flights from the United States, cities all over the United States, nonstop to Madeira. You go and get on the plane, you get out, you're in Madeira. That's it.
Really? You fly directly to Madeira?
Directly to Madeira.
Wow.
And of course, there are many other cities around the world you can do that to Madeira in Europe. So the island is significantly more affordable than most mainstream European cities. And other than the cost of getting there, and it's a ticket like any other ticket to any other city in Europe, once you get there, it's less expensive. It's less expensive even than most of the cities in Europe, and that's not saying that much. And it's less expensive than being here in the United States. So let me qualify that a little bit. Guidebooks. So it's apples to apples. The guidebooks defined the cost of these destinations in 4 categories. Okay, what does it cost to backpack there, to budget there, or normal business or tourist class or luxury travel there? You got the 4 categories, and so apples to apples, it's cheaper there. And Madeira is part of a larger cluster of Atlantic islands called Macronesia. Okay, not to be confused with Micronesia. Micronesia is the southern islands in southern South Pacific. Okay, Macronesia consists of 4 volcanic archipelagos. Archipelagos are a group of islands. They're in the North Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of North Africa. And southwest of Europe. And it consists of these archipelagos of the Azores, you've heard of them, the Canaries, Cape Verde, and Madeira, and the several small islands that are associated with Madeira, which are also part of Portugal. So in addition to the island of Madeira itself, included in the Madeira archipelago are 3 other groups of these Portuguese-owned islands near. One is called the Savage Islands, and they're pretty far away. They're about 175 miles south of Madeira. And next is one island called Porto Santos, okay? And it was discovered and explored before Madeira. What happened was there was a captain and several boats that were sent by Prince Henry the Navigator way back in the 15th century. And they got hit by this ferocious storm, and it blew them way off their destination. They got lost, and they're running out of food and water. And they suddenly come out, and the storm stops, and they see this island, and they seek refuge there, and they get replenished their food and water. And so they call it Porto Santos, mean Saint Island, because it saved them. And it's small; it's only 16 square miles, and it's only about 5,500 people that live there now. And it's only 20 miles from Madeira itself. And It's famed for three things. Number one is that Christopher Columbus, married a native girl there, and he moved there and learned a lot of his navigation there, and he even landed there as part of one of his third exploratory trip to the New World. He left Spain and stopped there, and second, and you'll like this, Randy. Porto Santos is hosts a world famous 46-hole golf course. Every
46.
and I'm a little skeptical. This world famous, burger joints call themselves world famous. I don't
Right.
know about that,
Well,
but it's there, and and it has a 5 mile long beach that is prized by vacationers from Europe because it has this gorgeous blonde sand and these crystal clear warm waters. Okay, the third group of Portuguese owned islands around and associated with Madeira are called the Desertus Islands, mean desert islands, and they're completely uninhabited, and they're only 5.5 square miles, and their name means desert islands, of course, Desertus Islands, and there's this beautiful, unique indigenous flowers there that grow, despite its largely desert terrain, and there are a few creatures there. There's some non-indigenous rabbits and goats that escaped from Madeira, but by far the most famed creatures on Desertus Islands are the famed Desertus grande wolf spiders, which are these gigantic tarantulas that are
I
indigenous.
believe some of these pictures exhibit their beauty, if you want to say that, correct?
They are they're 13 centimeters
Oh my
wide,
God.
half a foot. Can you imagine a spider half a foot? I mean, across, and but they are notoriously gentle creatures. They're shy, they're unaggressive to people, and sadly, they're very endangered. Okay.
Yeah,
So
did you see any while you were there?
I did not. They're only on Desertus Island Grande, the biggest of the Desertus Islands, and
Gotcha.
only in one valley, and there's, I think somebody said only 300 of them left in this big,
It's amazing.
very
So
gentle.
just to backtrack, got one other question. Did you spend any time at the beach, go in the ocean at all, or test out the waters while
I
you were
did
there?
not. I did not. We were just doing a whirlwind tour.
Yeah.
My wife believes in the you can sleep when you're dead, style of, which she calls AAA touring. You get up at the crack of dawn, you go till dark, and we just stack them up. Actually,
Need
I've
a
gone.
vacation, need a vacation from your vacation when
I
you're
need a vacation from my vacation.
so we're
Uh,
gonna break this down just to let the viewers know. This is gonna be on Madeira, and then next week when you get back, we're gonna talk about you ventured on to Portugal, correct? After this?
We went to Madeira, Portugal, and we went to three locations in Portugal, two of the famous locations there, Elvira and Porto and Cascais, which is a fantastic city. So we went to these, and we drove all around from there and toured. So I'm going to have another podcast for you, maybe even two, on the wonders of Portugal itself. This is my second time to Portugal. I went last year. We liked it so much. We never go back to a place. We went back to Portugal because it was so
Wow.
fantastic.
Now,
Um,
what do they speak? So let me just take a look, take a gander at this. If you have two people speaking to each other in Portugal, they're speaking Portuguese. But if
yes.
person is speaking, is that Portugoose? I don't know. I'm
um, well, they teach, like in Scandinavia, they teach English to the Portuguese from
gotcha.
second grade or something, and they can speak English better than we can. Just like I go visit my niece in Copenhagen, and you can just go in a bar anywhere and strike up a conversation with people in English, and they love to practice their English with you. And
Now,
there's
just out of curiosity, is Portuguese close to Spanish, or is that a separate
Yes,
language?
it's very close to Spanish, and it separated, not that long ago, before the Middle Ages. But it looks sort of the same, and it sounds sort of the same, but it's different. And
Because
and
I
they
know
can,
Brazil, it's the main language of Brazil
it
down
is
south.
the language of Brazil, and Portuguese settled in Brazil, and so it speaks Portuguese. Uh,
Gotcha.
and Brazil is a very big country, so it's somebody said it was the mother. It's the third largest collection of speakers from the mother tongue of a European is
Huh.
Portuguese. So now we come to the island of Madeira itself, which I took my wife and grandson and daughter and a friend there last week. 4 days there last week, and it's not that big. It's only 35 miles long and about 13 miles wide. It's 459 square miles, which is, for reference, it's about 50% bigger than New York City. So it's not a huge place. There are 260,000 people that live in Madeira, and about half of them live in Funchal, which is the capital of Madeira. And the rest of them live right in the suburbs. It's all clustered there, up the mountainside and down the beach from Funchal, and leaves the rest of this beautiful island wild and uninhabited, unpopulated. Okay. The island is incredibly majestic and sheer. It consists of these towering, extinct volcanic cones, and they leap up right from sea level to 8,000, like skyscrapers,
Wow.
on this narrow little island. And my daughter and I, being climbers, of course, we had to go climb with them. So we found a guide who would take us up and drop us off, and we hiked 6 miles up to the top of the second highest one. And we have some pictures here for you to see. And on the final ascent, you're walking on this narrow ridge line with these bottomless 1,000-foot cliffs on both sides. And the locals on this stairway they built put guardrails with metal cables, thank God. And they called it naturally the stairway to heaven. Okay. And if you would step off of it, you get an escalator to heaven because and it was absolutely gorgeous from the top, as you can imagine. There's this breathtaking views. You look out over this rugged landscape, the fog-shrouded north coast, and you look down on the world's largest pure laurel forest, 37,000 acres of Laura silva, which is a unique species of laurel trees, which grows nowhere else on Earth, and they thrive on the northern slopes of these volcanic mountains. And this forest is now a protected United Nations World Heritage Site. And these laurel trees used to cover the whole island. And it gave the island its name, Madeira, which means wood in Portuguese. My daughter was in Corte Madeira, which is the Spanish pronunciation of wood, cut wood. So they got a kick out of that. But Madeira means wood island. So it has many claims to fame, Madeira. Perhaps the best known claim to fame is it's known for this vast, prolific array of indigenous flowers. Okay, it's not for nothing that Madeira is called the flower pot of Europe. This fertile soil, the rain, the subtropical climate make this an ideal place for these profusions of wildflowers. And the climate there is fantastic. It's cool. It's a little rain, but it's not. The climate is incredible. It's a subtropical, perfect climate, nice all the year.
It sounds sort of similar in size to Maui, maybe a little bit smaller.
Yeah, it is similar to Maui, and because the Hawaiian Islands have a little bit of desert there, especially on the Big Island, and on top of up at was Haleakala's got a little desert, so it's very similar to Hawaii, and in fact they call it the Hawaii of Europe.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's an ideal place. My wife and daughter love flowers, so I went to a lot of the stunning botanical gardens there, and we chartered an all-day Land Rover tour with a guide. It took us up in these remote backcountry woods. We see the forest, the mountain flowers, the profusion of the flowers in these mountainside villages, very picturesque places. The second claim of Madeira, its claim to fame, is its wine, called Madeira wine, of course. And it's produced there for centuries and centuries. And they make it in these picturesque terraced vineyards. And I've been around the world where you've probably seen, every place they want to, if it's steep and they want agriculture, they have to terrace it, they have to make flat spots. And here it's so steep that the terraces, you have to have ladders. So these ladders from each of the terraces, can you imagine having a wine? You have to go and climb up a ladder to your next, So Madeira wine was George Washington's favorite wine, okay? And he wasn't alone. It was prized in the United States in colonial times. And after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, all of the founding fathers got together and they toasted the newly declared independent nation of the United States of America with Madeira wine. Madeira is very proud of that. They're very aware of that. So the oceans surrounding Madeira filled with dolphins and whales, okay, and especially popular with pods and pods of pilot whales. And so we chartered a little Zodiac and went out and ventured, and we got really quite close to these beautiful, gentle, huge creatures, the pilot whales. Um, the island of Madeira began as a volcano 6.8 million years ago, and it only became inactive about 6,500 years ago, which is the blink of an eye geologically. Okay, and so these volcanic eruptions created this rugged landscape, and they created the rich volcanic soil. Now, on the island, the among the many quirky, fun, adventuresome activities they do, and perhaps the most extraordinary, is the Monte Toboggan rides. Okay, this is a unique form of bobsledding on paved streets. Okay, the city of Funchal, the capital, is set on these extremely steep hills, high hills, and it makes for a very picturesque city, and it provides pretty awesome views, but it creates very long, steep climbs up and down. So the highest neighborhood of them all is called Monte, M-O-N-T, like mountain, and the streets leading up to it are particularly long and steep and twisty. And this suggested as early as the 19th century, and the locals started this thrilling tradition in which people ride in a traditional wicker basket bobsled, but it's mounted on slick, polished wooden runners that slide down these paved streets all the way to the bottom of the mountain. Okay, and today, for tourists, that you get two experienced drivers are called carreros that use their rubber sole shoes. They're locals that they steer and brake the bobsled by pulling ropes on it as needed. And the tourists come and they get this thrilling ride down the mountain all the way to the bottom. And it's quite a tourist attraction. It's just really well known in Europe. And people ride taxis and walk up and take the gondola up to Monte, this neighborhood at the top of the mountain. And then they wait in line with all these tourists to ride all the way down, accompanied by these two dapper uniformed carreros that they wear these dashing white uniforms. And it's quite a thrill. A lot of parents are up there with their kids. And I got to watch as it started down. You see these kids, look at this wonderful look of expression of joy and thrill in their faces. Okay. The wait for the toboggan was pretty long, so we decided to take another popular Madeira transportation, the gondola. It's like a cable car on a ski lift. And there are quite a number of them that would take you up and down the mountain, these incredible picturesque views of everything on the upper reaches of the mountains above Funchal. And we took one of them down. It was like taking a ski lift, exactly like taking a ski lift. It reminded me of that. Another popular activity is to sunbathe and swim in the many spectacular natural volcanic pools that form along the rocky coast next to the ocean, and they're full of seawater, and they're quite dramatic all along the coast. The locals call these the natural pools, okay? And we were there. They were full of these gorgeous young European-looking sunbathers, in their traditional local, very skimpy bathing suits. I have nothing.
If any at all, correct? Hey, Robert, on that note, we're going to have to take a break because I think I just lost my breath. And we're going to have to come right back. But a few people want to, talk to us a little bit here for a minute or two. So Robert Mills talking to us about Madeira and people wearing, bathing suits out of the early 1900s, I'm sure. Made from dental. Yeah, I was going to say.
Here's one of the bathing suits.
I was thinking they buy a roll of dental floss and you can do 4 or 5 at a time.
You got it.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't have any objection for the record. I don't have any objection.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't. That white hair was white hair when you left, and it was back when you came back home. Anyway, silly old guys talking about beautiful women and what craziness is going on. Anyway. Everybody always remember we're going to be right back, and you can find us on Golfers Golf and Travel Facebook page and Live Eco Style on YouTube. Easiest places to go. And this is at the end of can't wait to hear a little bit more about Madeira and your trip, because I know your wife was the one that set this up. Go take a look at some pretty flowers and some beautiful scenery, and certainly with your pictures we're seeing that. We'll be right back. Again, old Uncle Randy for Robert Mills. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Morning dew
All right, everybody. Thank you for staying tuned here to Golfers Golf and Travel. And Robert Mills is waiting with bated breath that for the another segment of his visit to Madeira and fully now ensconced in his own swimwear. No, wait a minute. He's got a blazer and shirt on. Anyway, Robert, we're ready to go. Let's talk about that beach apparel. No, forget that part. We got to let that go. Anyway,
It's men and women, Randy,
of course it was. I'm sure there was a lot of.
and it's a European culture is different on that whole thing,
Oh yeah,
they're anyway. Let's talk about something that's interesting to Randy here.
there you go.
Um, Golf. Okay, it's very
All
popular
right.
in Madeira, and as it is everywhere on the earth, right, Randy? And there are numerous high-quality golf courses on Madeira. They all have breathtaking views, extremely picturesque fairways. The most famous of them is the 27-hole Polernio Golf Course. That's Poletirno Golf Course, and it was designed by the famous Robert Trent Jones Jr. And the close second is a 27-hole Santo de Sierra Club. But that's just one of many of these golf courses that are on these overlooking the ocean, gorgeous places. And because of the clear water and the swimming and the snorkeling and scuba diving are all very popular on Madeira. And of course, I can't fail to mention dining. Okay, I mean, like many places in Europe, the dining on the Europe, it is unbelievably good. Incredible places to eat and incredible food. So let's do a little history here. Who discovered this place? Well, there are all sorts of vague references in Spanish, Roman, Greek, and even Viking literature describing how sailors and explorers in distant times claimed to have discovered islands out in the Atlantic Ocean where Madeira is located. But there's a lot of islands out there, and there's no way to confirm all these sorts of claims. And there's absolutely no evidence whatever that anybody ever set foot on these places until, at least on Madeira, until the Portuguese arrived in 1419. Okay, and this is the first uncontested discovery of Madeira, and it quickly became a stopover for ships from Europe in the age of discovery, when Europe was beginning to explore and colonize and trade with Africa and India and the Far East. When Ferdinand Magellan stopped in Madeira when he returned to Portugal after several of his earlier voyages before the circumnavigation one. And while he was killed on his circumnavigation, the Spanish navigator Juan Sebastian Elcano, who was one of his lieutenants who took over the remaining ship, Magellan's remaining ship, the Victoria, and finished the voyage. He stopped in Madeira after Magellan's death in the Philippines before completing the final leg of that 37,560-mile circumnavigation of the world, the first one that Magellan started. So almost immediately after its discovery in 1419, the Portuguese began to populate Madeira, and it was formally colonized as a colony by Portugal in 1425. And it quickly became a key exporter of sugarcane, a crop that eventually it ceded to its much bigger colony, Brazil, Portuguese colony. But the intensive labor that required to cultivate and export sugar eventually led Madeira to become the first European region to use slaves. Okay, in 1452, Madeirans brought enslaved Berbers and Gauchis, which were natives of ethnics of North Africa from Morocco. However, Madeira once again became the first European settlement to abolish slavery in 1775. So they were the first to import slaves and the first to abolish slavery. A few more fascinating tidbits about Madeira history. Portugal entered into a treaty and alliance with England in 1386. 1386, okay? The Treaty of Windsor, which is today by far and away makes Portugal and England the oldest alliance in the history of the world, still going strong today. The British occupied Madeira as a result of Napoleon, when it was a friendly occupation to keep France from getting it. And it concluded in 1814 when they returned the islands, the keys back to Portugal, and then left. In the Crimean War in 1856, the British troops were invited to recover from cholera there. and the widows and orphans of the fallen soldiers were allowed to be stationed there in Madeira. Okay, Portugal fought on our side for the Allies in World War I, and they were rewarded for this by having a German U-boat steam into the harbor there in Foggia and sink 3 ships in the harbor. And Portugal was neutral in World War II. And in April the 2nd, 1976, Portugal gave autonomy after this democratic revolution. Now they overthrew the dictatorship. So in 1974, Portugal granted political autonomy to Madeira. And this was called Madeira Day. And in September 1978, Madeira celebrated its self-rule by adopting the Madeira flag. And here's a picture of it here. And because of its many charms, some of which we've discussed here, today over 2.5 million visitors, come to Madeira every year. And the most popular attraction of all, as you may have guessed, is the world famous Madeira Flower Festival, which runs through the entire month of May. People come from all over the world to this. And it's so popular, but you need to book your flight, Randy, and your hotel rooms well in advance, so you don't miss it. Okay.
What time of year is that? I got to take note.
In May, the whole month of May.
Whole month
Okay.
of May.
Month of May.
So now is tourism and service industry, is that the major industry of the island then at this point in time, or?
Well, they grow grapes there.
They grow grapes. We haven't got to that part yet. So it's
the Madeira wine.
yeah, right.
Famous Madeira wine. But that's a big tourism industry, and that's about it. They don't make anything there in any significance. It's just this beautiful vacation location. There's only 260,000 people on the island. And I said only, but that's a fairly small, from someplace way out in the middle of nowhere like that. But I want you to be sure, Randy, that you have your golf clubs packed in your suitcase, and so that you and I and Art can go over there in May, okay, and do a few rounds on those two great courses, okay. You'll be ready for that, right?
Oh, always ready for at my age, I now go when I hit a golf ball, I go, well, isn't that interesting?
I think they have nonstop flights from Chicago.
Really?
This nonstop is the way to go. I mean,
oh, without question.
You just get on the airplane and you get off and you're in Madeira, and you don't have to, and it doesn't cost any more than any other flight to any other city.
Well, I just dropped my one son off today to they're going back to Maui on the one direct flight that United has out of Chicago, that we've trained ourselves over the years to make sure that that's the one we take. And he has my 3-year-old granddaughter with him, and I said, just out of curiosity, Andrew, are you taking food along, or did you check to see if they actually have service on this flight? Because the flights today don't have any food service, but I think United Hawaiian service on that 8.5-hour flight still might have a little food service. I might be wrong, but if not, they're gonna buy whatever they can. And he's been to Maui virtually every year for the past number of years, and they've taken this flight. They just plumb forgot at 4:30 this morning. Hey, maybe we want something to eat. So.
Well, I recommend you take TAP Airlines, TAP. That's the Portuguese airline that you
Really?
From the United States, and you can go business class, and not that much more. You can. It's a little compartment. You get there, and your bed goes flat, and you could say make delicious meals. They serve you absolutely delicious meals.
So flying from San Francisco, you didn't have a direct flight from San Francisco, did you?
Oh, there is one now. We didn't take that one because we missed it for some reason, and so we ended up deciding. My daughter was out with some friends visiting out in New York, and so she flew from Newark directly to Madeira. Miriam and I went to Madrid and turned around and hopped a flight back to Madeira that way because we missed the one. There is a direct nonstop from San Francisco to Madeira, and I should have taken that one, but
so you flew direct from San Francisco to Madrid then?
I flew from direct from San Francisco to Madrid and then turned around and went down to Madeira.
How long a flight was that?
11 and a half hours. 11 hours and 16 minutes. And then we went from there up to Lisbon, and from Lisbon we took a nonstop Francisco. And it's not, you bring some stuff to read and watch movies and sleep, it's not that hard.
Well, that never bothers me. I don't, the phone doesn't ring. That's one of the few
No,
things
the
I
phone
like.
doesn't ring. So peace and quiet there,
Exactly.
and then considering, I mean, it used to take people to getting to San Francisco from the East Coast of the United States to come out for the gold rush. It took them 9 months
Yeah,
on,
exactly.
on some rickety sailboat, drinking fetid water and eating hardtack and other stuff with no nutrients in it, or else you had to go to St. Louis, Missouri, St. Joseph, Missouri, which is the end of the roads, and you had to walk 2,000 miles, and those are the two ways to get here. And so nowadays, you just get on a jet and glide along, in 11 hours you're there. And
So just to cover the basics like we do for our people that are looking at traveling, when you get there, are you using charge cards or do you convert cash are they using euros then?
they use euros. It's a European country. It's part of the EU,
Yeah,
uh, and uh, it's EU, and it's what you do is you can use your credit card and it automatically converts. And you can go to a bank beforehand, go to a currency exchange, and get yourself a favorable rate and convert dollars to euros. You get a wallet with some euros in it. You can give for tips and stuff like that, and you're good to go. And it's cheaper than the other capitals of Europe, by a considerable margin, even cheaper than the United States. And
now,
but people,
when it came to tipping, so in France, tipping is sort of a mind. I don't even know how to explain that. I mean, when you go out to
yeah,
dinner,
you're right. I mean, France is not a tipping culture,
right?
I mean, I tipped in Russia, and they were like insulted. What's the matter with you? I mean,
Yeah,
and so Madeira and Portugal are not tipping cultures. But I find you give them 5 or 10% and they're
right.
thrilled. And people carry you bags up to the hotel. That's what they still expect some small tip. That's a little different than the tipping. When you go in a restaurant. I mean, in Europe, people go in restaurants and they order the food and the bill comes, they pay the bill. There's no tip and they just leave.
Yeah,
That's America is used to be 10% and now it's 20, right? It's um
yeah. You get into that culture today, it, I don't know. That's a whole nother show. I mean, the drive-through at one of the famous coffee shops, we'll leave it that way. They now put the card in the machine, hand it through the window, and of course, first thing it says, tip your cashier. And I'm like, I just
well, what bothers me is that first of all, restaurants started adding it
right,
automatically to six or more, and now a lot of places are adding a gratuity for everybody, and so here comes your bill. If you don't look at the fine print, you would miss the fact they've already charged you
right,
15%
right.
gratuity. It's already in there, and they're expecting that. So it's the cost of doing business, but there's not every place in the world that you can go and be safe like you can in Madeira. I mean, it's just no crime and whatsoever. And also the people like Americans. Americans are fairly new there. These direct flights, they didn't come there when there wasn't any direct flights. The direct flights have greatly increased the number of Americans. All these flights now nonstop from America. So there's people from here, and they like it, and they know we tip, and we're fun, and they're happy. They're just a tourist society. They're happy to have people from. So they're very friendly and nice, and not every place in the world is friendly and welcoming to Americans now.
No,
So
they're not. I don't know why. It's so unusual.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that flight, was it fairly full? I mean,
yes, packed, packed.
yeah,
Maybe why my wife, she handled that. Why we couldn't get into it because it was full, way in advance, and the flights are full to Madeira. It's
yeah.
of course it's August. There, not everything is full. I mean, this is the vacation time, and
So
so
just another basic. So you out there, you rented a car?
no, we
No.
didn't rent a car. You don't need to rent a car there.
Okay.
It's not like Funchal is the center of everything, the
Gotcha.
capital. And you just go out and you hire a guide, and we hired a guide to do the drive. We
Gotcha.
hired, and you can do that, and you just hire a taxi, and go up to the
Sure.
top of the mountain or go to these various places. And we walk. My wife and I and my kid, my grandson, and we all love walking. So we just went out and walked all these beautiful, gorgeous neighborhoods overlooking the ocean and everything, and go to these spectacular restaurants. And so you don't need a car, and there's places you can't live without a car. A lot
Oh,
of places.
getting to the food, and I hate to cut you off, but I mean, we haven't talked about food. What was the food like? I mean, is it expensive? Is it meat
Um,
filled or different?
it's
What kind of variety? What do
uh,
you?
it's hard to just summarily describe it. I'll do more when we did a lot more like gourmet type places in Portugal. We went to some places to do it. My daughter's really into this, and so she goes out and finds the name. That we actually drive someplace because it had some spectacularly famous Michelin place, and went there, and I have some pictures of it, and I can share that. We just went to nice restaurants when we were in Madeira, and it has the normal European variety of food. I mean, you have all kinds of seafood stuff there, of course, because it's out in the ocean. But you also have lamb and beef, and you have all the whole range. The Europeans believe in a lot of different courses, and the servings are much smaller than in America.
Is that where the term tapas comes into being? I mean, Spanish food is served in tapas, right? Tapas.
Yes, yeah. This was not a tapas place. I think that's more so Spanish. Uh, I don't know of any particular Portugal-based staple food like that. I mean, and so we just went to these places, and it was full of Europeans. It's Germans, French, and English primarily. And you get a little Scandinavians and a little Italian, but it's primarily those that have been going to Madeira for ages. They go to the beaches there and stuff, and so they're there. It's a European style, and you get smaller servings, but more courses, and you're expected to have 6, 8, 10 courses of food. They're fairly small, and I came back about 5 pounds over when I left,
Yeah.
and even with the walking, and my daughter, the height to the top was really a high point. It was 6.5 miles up this, straight up to this spectacular view. But we went to several different restaurants that were like top restaurants there in Funchal, which is the capital, in different neighborhoods, and wandered around, and it's really quite, the architecture there is very Spanish type architecture. You would recognize it, in Portuguese, and it looks like California, and and it's
So are you staying in a hotel, or what kind of accommodations did you have?
we stayed. My wife is always on the market for like bargains, okay, and so especially if it's way ahead of time, and so somehow she got something, and we stayed in Reed's Palace, which is the fanciest hotel in Madeira, and she got some break on it. I don't know how she did that, but we went there and stayed there, and it was a palace, and there's different. I got pictures, the pictures of the pools, and we get to swim with my grandson in these pools, and spectacular restaurants on site, and breathtaking views, especially at night. You see the whole of Funchal and coming down to the ocean, and service is incredible.
So did you have a suite or room, or what were you staying in?
We had two we had this gigantic suite. The gigantic suite. We had different rooms, and so that my wife and I and my grandson and his mom could have different places. So it didn't cost as much as I was feared. She had this great deal. She's always doing that. She got you got a year ahead of time, and these things will come along, and you get these special deals from different groups and all. She's really into that. And
So now we're here. So now we're going to be, you know, giving the listener what they really want. Whether it's on this show or next week, we have to find your wife's insight, how she did it. You're going to have to find out, get those notes. We need some.
I will be happy to do that. We went all over Portugal, doing, she's a master planner of the thing.
Well, that's what we want to, Robert. We want to share. Sharing is
I will
caring.
share. I just work here. Okay. I show up and I've always been,
Well, but we have a few million people that watch this show, and they might be really wanting to, take to heart what you have to say, and then they go, but he didn't say anything how she got this deal. Well, we're gonna.
I will have her give me a list of the different ways that she goes about this.
That'd be fascinating.
She's been doing it for a while, so she'll have some things to say. You have to join this group or that group, or you look for this. And a lot of them, will if you go on the website and they have these website things you join on, and they will advertise. If they're running a little short of being 100% full, to advertise, and they just be sure the hotel's 100% occupied, and that's where these deals come from. To be sure and you can get them on flights too.
Well, we're
So
gonna have to get her and our friend Robert Aldrich's Judy, who is another immaculate planner. When we visited with them, now again, full disclosure, Bob Aldrich and Robert and I graduated from high school back before electricity, and
I seem to think I remember you from you and I were classmates and back before the electricity and the earth cooled.
yeah.
And
Anyway, we were visiting with Bob and Judy 2 weeks ago on our media trip up through Wisconsin, and Judy is an amazing planner. I'm sure just like your wife, but they have now an upcoming for us a 3.5 week sojourn, should they call it, a cruise, a land. They're going to go to Greece, Rome, Croatia. It's a cruise, it's a bus, it's a this, it's a that. And I said, well, how much of your retirement are you putting into this? And she divulged how much it was for this 3 week. I was just like, holy cow. She's amazing. The detail that she comes up with. They had a trip last year. They went to Japan to visit our classmate Toshi. And they had a 3 week trip there. And, the book pictures were like 3 books this thick that we got to go through, 2 weeks ago about that trip. So I'm fascinated to listen to both of you because planning is, for me, it seems like somebody will call me up and say, hey, you want to come visit? Bring your trip, bring your camera, get us in your magazine. I don't mind doing that, but right now I have about 18 different places they want me to come. And, in our little group of people that travel, it makes life interesting.
my wife has been doing this for years and years.
Yeah,
We've been to 63 countries and
that's
we
incredible.
she's always planning this stuff, and we go around the U.S. too. And when I had my plane, we would fly off on the weekends and spend all over the Western U.S. You could be there in a couple hours, and she was always going through and picking out these places to see. And when we plan these trips, she wants to go see this and you see this, and she coordinates so that they fit together so you can have time to do all these things. And that's the point of going to these places, is to experience these
Right.
things that they're known for and go and see it and experience it. And we
So,
took
so
our
Robert, we've got about 3 minutes left here. Give us, I know we're going to get more into Madeira and Portugal next week when you get back, but where you're going is on Robert, full disclosure, we always try to tell everybody, Robert has climbed 56 of the top 57 highest mountains in the United States. He's going to be leaving in a couple days to go on a 4 or 5 day venture. Give us 2 minutes of what you're going to be doing this upcoming weekend.
Well, I'm going with a friend I've been climbing with for 20 some years. I have another one I've been climbing for 30 some years with. And this guy and I are going, he's a shrink, and we're going to go to the South Warner Wilderness, which is way, way up in this remote northeast corner of California. There's nobody up there. And there's this mountain range up there called the Warner Mountains. And there's a wilderness called the South Warner Wilderness. And so we're going there, and we're going to park at the entrance of the wilderness, at a equestrian place, and we're going to then get out and then put our heavy backpacks on, and it's about 16.5 miles to the top of this peak called Warren Peak. and there's not even a trail to the top of Warren after the last few miles. And so we're going to have to figure out whether it's climbable. It's some huge cliffs on it. I don't know if we can do it or not, but we're going to go and go up there. I mean, and I found that almost every peak is climbable without a rope if you can zig and zag and find that, there's a route to the top that you can do without a rope. And so we're going to go look for that, and I'll be having pictures for you here next week, of whether we make it or not. But we're going to spend several nights getting in there. And Eric, he loves to cook in the outdoors, and he's really good at it. He's a gourmet cook. And so, he doesn't like planning these trips. I have all this experience planning. So he said, you plan it, okay, and I'll cook. And so I just think we both think we have the better end of that deal. And so he does all the cooking, and I carry half the weight, and he does, and I do all the planning, and we're going to go here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so we have this great partnership where we both love being outdoors, and you can sit around at night
Now on this trip, do you each have your individual tents then, or you stay in the same
we
one?
both have individual one-man tents, and it gives us privacy. And so I have this tent I bought. It's MSR Pro 2. It's a Himalayan mountaineering tent. It's really tiny, and it's really big. Like it's for the heavy. It will handle huge snow load and wind. And you slap it up in a second and climb in it, and so we each we can talk to each other if we yell, and so we'll sit down and we'll have dinner together. And if it's a car campus, I have a four-man tent that has a stove jacket. I could put my little titanium stove in there. And so last time, remember I did a climb with him. And we put the stove in there, and we put our tents out, and we go in there for dinner and light up the fire and have dinner and sit back in the warmth of the tent. And then we're ready to go to bed. We just go out and get in our sleeping bags and go to bed. This time we're just
Robert, this is fascinating. I got to cut it off because you're going from, 7-star hotel in Madeira that your wife got all lined up. And, just for fun and frivolity, Robert's going to head out to camp on the ground in a one-man tent, gourmet cook, climbing up a high hill. It's just, you are AB. There are two Robert Mills going on here. I don't know.
my wife calls it sleeping in the dirt. She says,
I know it. Well, this has been a great show. I really appreciate your time. And as we always say, as we come to a close, we actually have a new theme song at the end now called, Always Leave a Better Footprint, dedicated to what my grandfather always told me, is that when you come down to this beautiful place called Earth and the experience of life, is that when you are here, just leave a better footprint. Robert, you have left them all over the planet in 63 countries, 56 big hills, and all over San Francisco.
And on 300 mountain summits, 300 of them. Robert loves Miriam. I find it summit registered. Robert loves Miriam.
Oh, when she finds out that you've been writing her notes, she's going to be tracking you down. Anyway, for Robert Mills, this is old Uncle Randy. Y'all have a great weekend. And as my grandfather said, always leave a better footprint. Feel good about it at the end of the day. Bye-bye.
That's where it starts. It ain't about pushing or shouting the loudest. It's the soft-spoken questions that open up hearts.